What are the kind of difficulties that you encounter when explaining the concept of trials to patients? Do you have maybe examples of a really successful trial for a patient?
Well, we have a standard approach really to trying to instill in the patients the importance of clinical trials. We emphasise the possibility that the trial could benefit the patient, but that there is inevitably benefit for the wider community for the future if they participate in a clinical trial. Um, we would be quite honest about the what we knew about the product. Obviously, if the investigational product has already had some trial exposure, we would say that yes, this is a promising drug. But the way I put it to patients is because we're usually doing what we call phase 3 clinical trials, where we're testing the new drug against whatever is considered to be standard or a dummy, a placebo. I put it to the patients that the only way that we can assess whether the drug is effective is to work out whether it works, whether it does what we hope it would do, for example, improving the hemoglobin concentration in a patient who's anemic, whilst at the same time not having too many toxic effects. So the typical situation in that context of the phase 3 trials is that the drug has had modest exposure in terms of the numbers of patients, and it looks promising in terms of the fact that it works and it appears to be safe. But until you expose a lot more people to it, you don't know how effective it's going to be, nor how safe it's going to be. And so you need to explain that to the patient, that just because a drug looks as though it's going to be effective in the first instance, it does not necessarily mean to say that when larger numbers of patients are treated, that it will be both effective and safe. And therefore, testing it against a dummy drug is a logical thing to do. And so it is a difficult concept, and I think people are justifiably concerned about being allocated to the placebo, to the dummy drug. But we can try and reassure patients by saying that we just don't know whether the test drug is actually going to be better or not, and this is the only way that we can test it. And I have to say, most patients, when you give them a sensible explanation like that, understand the concept and usually participate, in fact. The other practical problems for MDS patients in terms of participating in clinical trials is the fact that many people are at the elderly end of the spectrum and are not so mobile, for example, and have other diseases affecting them as well. And so the practical aspects of clinical trials can be challenging, can be difficult for them to get to the trial centre. But there are ways of trying to overcome that as well.